Hey everybody, this is Random Observer here, my YouTube name, just to respond to fellow Brit Jameela Jamil's request for some civilised discussion about the series she's starring in, She-Hulk, which has caused a lot of controversy and has divided a lot of opinion. Anyway, she has asked for a civil discussion, so as in the most businesslike, diplomatic way possible, I'm going to try and give some feedback here. So this is going to be a fairly dry video, I would say, but I'm going to put this in business terminology or business terms to try and sort a few issues out. Now, first of all, to explain, I have been a business administrator and I work for multinational corporations, so I understand there are certain business standards that have got to be met. And to be frank, streaming services for a global corporation such as Disney, that is a business. You're marketing to customers at the end of the day. So these criticisms, I believe, are valid. Now, again, if She-Hulk were a small series made by an independent studio, by first timers, then this would not be an issue. But it's because it's about a well-known superhero with an established fan base, made and distributed by a major global studio. That is why this is so controversial. All the bad writing, to be frank, and many other things that are making this show so disliked and unpopular. I've got to say, in all honesty, this is one of the worst TV shows I have ever seen personally, and I have seen some bad ones, but this is just the worst, and I will explain why in a civilized manner. Again, I'll explain why in a civilized manner. So, there are precedents for this. For example, got a few notes here. Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. That, if you remember, that was the musical that on Broadway, which Marvel Studios backed. And in much the same way as this project, they pumped millions of dollars into an idea which turned out to be disastrous because the whole concept was flawed. But they made basically the same mistake that they seem to have made in this one. They took an established superhero and they let a creative team completely run wild with this superhero and completely change everything about them, which confused and disappointed fans. And as people were saying, as critics were saying, by pumping millions of dollars into an already bad execution of a once great idea, they basically turned a car crash into a slow-moving train wreck, unquote. And the same thing is happening here. They've clearly not learned their lesson, which is why I am putting pen to paper with this video. Now, okay, right, okay, I would like to start in a business sense here. Imagine you get hired by a multinational to do a project. Business people here, right? Let's think of this as business. Okay, you get hired to do a project for a multinational company. What is the first thing you should be doing? Common sense, right? Do your homework, do your research. This is a basic rule, right? What is the company? Who are the customers? What product are they selling? What service are they giving? What do the customers expect? Customer expectation. These are basic, very basic standards. Unfortunately, as head writer Jessica Gao said for this series, apparently they didn't read the comic books and they apparently didn't know about writing courtroom scenes. And yet they took on to write the story of a well-known comic superhero who is a lawyer. Now, so in other words, they didn't do their homework. Now imagine, okay, for a moment, take a step back here. Imagine in another field of business, a contractor is hired and they freely admit, oh yeah, we didn't study the product very much and we didn't really bother with the service. What impression is that going to create? How would you feel if you'd hired them and they told you that? First of all, it's annoying to the boss. It's embarrassing to the recruiter who recruited them. And it's also potentially insulting to their customers because that's not, the customers expect you to know what you're providing. This is common sense. And as Brits, Jameela Jamil and I are both Brits, so to use a British example, we Brits know the infamous example of Gerald Ratner, who famously destroyed his entire brand with one stupid remark by insulting his customers. That's what you should never do. And that's basically what they've done in this case. The writers have done by not doing their homework. Okay, now also a side note here on the direction. Okay, this is meant to be a comedy, right? Officially, we're told. Now, okay, if it's a comedy, it's meant to be larger than life in some ways. Okay, they've said it in the real world. It's meant to be a day in life, fair enough. I'll come to that in a moment. But if you're doing a comedy, you've got to do it either one of two ways. You can have a whimsical, over-the-top kind of thing, like Ally McBeal, for example, which is not meant to take it literally. It's deliberately over the top. You're not meant to take it literally. Or you could have a witty, sarcastic one like Frasier, which is, again, brilliant, another style of comedy. That works as well. Either of those styles work fine. But this show doesn't do any of that. It just basically plays everything straight. I am now going into the scene. We're now doing this. We're now doing that. It is done in such a straight-laced way. It's played so straight, and just in my opinion, that it's just flat. It's not impressive. There's nothing. It's neither hot nor cold. It's just in this sort of middle ground, limbo land, which is not interesting to anybody. As a note, also another thing, Tatiana Maslany. Okay, she's a good actor, fair enough, but the way that this has been done. The creative team, they obviously decided, right, we're going to make her look as plain as possible because we don't want to objectify women. I get they're feminists, right. They don't want to objectify women. They don't want to sexualize her. They don't want to make her look too glamorous. They want her to be as plain and as ordinary as possible so that she's relatable to the every woman. Okay, fair enough. The problem is they have made her look so plain and so ordinary that she is now, to me at least, she's appearing to be like a supporting character in her own TV series, which is not what you should be doing with the leading lady. The lead character should be, she has that it factor, something about her appearance, just something. Dress code, even if she's not a glamour model, there's got to be something that draws your attention to her among all the characters in the room. And this is a basic rule. We know this from theatre, from amateur theatre. I know this, that's a basic rule. Every director will tell you that, and they should know this. Anyway, that's another criticism. Okay, debatable, but fair enough. Right, then of course there's continuity. We get upset. Okay, yeah, this is a comedy. Okay, it's meant to be episodic. But common sense things like, for example, Wong being brought in and then being a fugitive from the law in one scene, in one episode, and then in the next episode, oh, he's back as normal and as if nothing happened. Well, that makes no sense at all to an audience, even for a comedy. And then the other thing was, okay, the twist, for example, okay, plot spoiler, Abomination escaping from jail. Okay, right, that's like a major, oh my gosh, supervillain is on the loose. But no, the writers decided, oh yeah, actually, 1 minute it's, oh my goodness, the Abomination has escaped. Oh my gosh, this is terrifying, massive stakes, really scary. And then the next it's like, oh yeah, well, it's okay, Wong was just using him to fight this fight here. He just got him out of jail and he's put him back in again. No big deal. A complete anticlimax, which completely undoes the whole effect of that twist. They basically just undone their own work. It's just, and so of course we don't care. And that's the thing. Again, the stakes. That's another criticism. Okay, Jessica Gao said she didn't want the stakes cranked up to the nines. Fate of the universe is in the balance, blah, blah. She wanted, things to be ordinary, about the ordinary life in between. Okay, fair enough. A valid point, because Star Trek Discovery went way too far with this. They cranked up the stakes every season. Oh, there's an anomaly that's going to destroy the entire universe. Oh my goodness, Michael Burnham is going to save us because she's a god. Oh my goodness. It was that kind of ridiculous overhype. And so I take the point, yes, audiences don't want that because it's exhausting. However, the writers of She-Hulk seem to have gone the other extreme and had absolutely no stakes at all. It's like, Jen's at a wedding. Great. Wow, that's so terrifying. Oh gosh, the entire world. I mean, what on earth is there to get invested in? Yeah, okay, fine. They're trying to make it like a sitcom, but even in a sitcom, you got some kind of things in the balance. You look at Friends, for goodness sake. That there's some kind of stakes, there's some kind of consequences for things. or Seinfeld or Frasier or something like that. Anyway, but certainly this is still a superhero series as well. There's got to be some kind of stakes. And the Daredevil episode was about 100 million times better because finally there was some danger, there was some actual problems here to solve. So anyway, there's got to be a balance, you know. Okay. Then of course there's the man bashing. Now, okay, I am a man, so obviously I'm not a fan of this. Now, okay, fair enough, right. I am also an amateur writer. So, to be fair, okay, as a writer, you write about from your own experience and you make the people you don't like, you base the bad guys on them. That's a little secret there. Anyway, yeah, that's what most writers do. Okay, the writers of She-Hulk, fair enough. They've had bad experiences with men and they want to put that into their writing. That's fair enough. Now, that would be all right if they just put, okay, right, we got this bunch of douchebags here based on the guys we didn't like. Fair enough. And here's the rest of the guys who are just normal. Yeah, except they didn't do that. The problem, okay, Jameela Jamil said, well, this is off-putting to some men. No, the problem, Jameela, is that they portrayed every single male character in every single episode as either an idiot, a douchebag, or the bad guy. Now, okay, let's take a step back here for a moment. Okay, the feminists who are listening to this, okay, remember the time decades ago, last century maybe, when in TV shows and movies, every female character was either portrayed as a damsel in distress, a passive bystander, oh, the hero's so amazing, I'm just going to look up in awe, or she was the sex object or some other thing. And of course, women got tired of this. They felt misrepresented, patronized, and pretty much, I believe the author of The Feminine Mystique clearly said she felt the way that women were portrayed in the media did not reflect the way they were in real life. So women got upset about this. And feminists quite clearly said this was not a fair portrayal of women. We want it changed, please. But the same thing is happening for men in this series. Now, okay, some people may say, well, how do you like it? Okay, well, to that I say, two wrongs don't make a right. If you are going to make every single male character into a complete douchebag or bad guy or whatever, the impression we are getting is all men are bad. And if you're going to portray an entire demographic of your show as all bad, then they're going to take that as a personal attack. For example, now people will say, oh, well, this wasn't made for you. Okay, this is another problem. Okay, this is a Disney Plus show. This is not for the readers of Jezebel, the feminist magazine, which I obviously don't like because it doesn't like me. Anyway, so, anyway, right. Okay, so this is Disney Plus. Okay, Disney, as we know, is a global corporation. Everybody is watching it. Every demographic, every single gender, background, age group, you name it. Millions of people all over the world are subscribed to it, myself included. So people like me are going to watch it. Also, let's remember this is about a superhero. Now remember Wonder Woman? Now yeah, okay, fine. An icon to feminists, a role model to women, fine. But she was also made to appeal to a mainstream audience. Men like myself could watch the movie and like it too, because it wasn't deliberately having a go at us, although of course it made clear about the issues of sexism. So, but in this one, this seems to have just basically bashed men over the head entirely, constantly. And there's a consequence to this. I'll come to that in a moment. Now, the other thing as well, I want to, okay, actually, I'll jump in ahead of time. No, okay, back to the other point, ammunition. Okay, this has consequences because this means that now if you're going to blatantly attack one demographic over and over again and imply that every single member of this demographic, i.e. all men, are just bad, then like I said, they're going to take it as a personal attack, and because they feel personally attacked, they're going to go and start ranting about you in the same way. Now, usually I don't approve of trolls. I don't like, people shouldn't be bullied, etc., etc. But to be frank, the writers of She-Hulk have done this in such a disrespectful, very nasty way They've not done this as humor. There's this hatred that's coming off every page here. That quite frankly they have brought this on themselves, because another major point here, this show is not funny. As the critical drinker said, all of this would be fine if the show was ridiculously over the top, like for example, Naked Gun or Anchorman, or those which obviously you weren't meant to take seriously, no matter what crazy stuff happened on these shows and films. You weren't meant to take it seriously. But with this one, because we're not laughing, it's not funny. The writers clearly don't know how to write jokes. So when you write something that's mean-spirited satire that's not funny, it's just mean. And that's why people are taking offense to it. I hope I explained this in a civilized way. Anyway, which leads me to my next point, which is ammunition. The political fallout of this is going to be bad. Now, as a precedent, remember Charlie's Angels? Again, similar situation. Elizabeth Banks, obviously a feminist, believes in female empowerment, fair enough. But she put together this film which was so blatantly one-sided. It portrayed women as these kind of like Mary Sues who are absolutely perfect in every single way, which of course the women watching this couldn't relate to. And it portrayed every single male character as inherently an idiot, an abuser, the bad guy, whatever. It was basically all women fantastically amazing, all men are bad, which of course divided its audience. It insulted the men, so of course men didn't bother coming to see it, and it patronized the women because of course they couldn't relate to half these characters. So of course the movie didn't do well. And now Elizabeth Banks says she regrets it, and it wasn't meant to be marketed as a feminist movie apparently. Oh, really, you think? I think it's quite obvious it was. But you see, but with that precedent in mind, that is the fallout. And what's even just as bad, or even worse, you might say, I can't remember the name of the film, 355. Okay, when that came along, that was an all-female action movie. Audiences thought, oh no, here we go again. It's another Charlie's Angels. And they all just stayed away from it. And that damaged that film, I would argue. So you're not just damaging, she didn't just damage her own movie, she damaged the prospects for other female-led action movies by being overly man-hating and women glorifying and not being realistic about either. So the same thing is happening here. That is a lesson to be learned, and it's not being learned because the same thing is being done again. And the legacy of this will not be good, because now I know that the creative team will think, oh, that's okay. That speech that Jen made about catcalling, the one where she says, I suffer infinitely more than you. That's going to be famous and it's going to be quoted and everyone's talking about it. Great, this is good for publicity. Yeah, we're all talking about it, but not for a good reason. That is going to be quoted. That years from now, that speech will be quoted and it will be used as ammunition. Everybody who wants to demean or undermine feminists will dig out that clip and they will say, yeah, there you are, you see, this is what feminists are like. And the young men watching that will think, oh gosh, they're so narcissistic and nasty. Yeah, gosh, I think I'll go watch Andrew Tate instead. That's what it's going to do. Trust me. I had my back got up. I had a chip on my shoulder as a young man because of all this confrontational identity politics stuff that's happened in the 80s and early 90s the same way. Trust me, if you do that, you are radicalizing a whole bunch of angry young men against you. Trust me, that will have bad consequences. So anyway, the legacy, the fallout of this train wreck is just bad. And I seriously hope that the lesson is learned here. But anyway, that is constructive feedback. And it's a sad thing to have to do. But this show has basically shown what not to do. And it's going to be held up as an example in years to come as the TV series that damaged modern feminism. I seriously believe that. So anyway, Jameela Jamil, if you are watching, that is my feedback. It's not nice, but I hope that it was civil. Feel free to comment below, everybody, and please do subscribe if you want to. Thank you.